So Paul then is, as I said before, is an IT specialist. Cloudworks is based in Nottingham. They're a gold Microsoft partner that specialises in cloud services, security and support. Paul's going to talk to us tonight about remote working, tools and services that are available for that, collaborating with employees remotely and how best that you can go about that, how to transition from office-based systems to cloud technologies, and also security for remote working if we've got a bit of time. And we're also going to see if we can screen share as well to Paul, so he can do a little short demonstration for us. So we'll see how we go on that one.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd keep it safe and just put a few slides on my screen. I think it'll be the best way. And then
okay,
you don't have to get that either. So best of both worlds.
Yes, hello and welcome.
Let's have a go. Right. Okay, so PowerPoint, there we go. I'm going to share that. See if I can do it.
So I take it you're busy at the moment, Paul, with what you're doing in your industry right now?
It is. Both, on a business perspective and domestically as well, because inadvertently I've become IT support for my kids, because now they're at home, all the schools are saying, right, we need to collaborate online. So it's quite funny because they're all, they're all using Teams and Office 365, and they're starting to know more than me, which is a bit scary, really. And they're all talking to all their mates in the classroom, and they've got them all on the screen, and it's quite fantastic to see it and to kind of see what technology they're using now. Because I think in 10 years' time, when they're at university or go on to work, I mean, these tools that we're using now and we're getting to grips with will be second nature for them. So it's amazing, really. So. Right, it's saying, hang on, let's see if I can do this. Try again.
If you want to, you can press share at the bottom of your screen if you want to share anything.
Right, can you now see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it,
Brilliant. Okay, so, as Fiona said, Cloudworks has been going about 5 years now, and we work with a lot of companies around Nottingham and nationally as well. So anyone from sort of one-man bands right up to bigger clients of 300 plus. So we do all sorts, really, and across all sectors as well, which makes it really interesting at the minute, because we've got a lot of different clients coming to us with a lot of different ways they want to work remotely. And often what we do is we kind of go back to them and we say, well, how, when it comes to remote working, what do you mean? And that's probably a good place to start here is, what is remote working? Because it's trending on Twitter. Everyone's using that term at the minute, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. My idea would be that picture on the screen right now, which should be sitting in a lilo with a laptop. Maybe one a bit cheaper though, because I think if I drop my MacBook in the water, I'd be losing a lot of money, so I'll avoid that. But essentially, I mean, it's a working style that allows us to work outside of a traditional office environment. And depending on your business, there's many different methods and requirements to do that. And it can mean that you're fully remote, which we have a lot of clients where they have clusters of remote workers and they never come into the office, but they have an office environment as well. So their requirements are different to staff who are predominantly based in the office, but may sort of work part-time at home. So again, there's different tools to enable that. And these days, with the cloud as well, it really helps with that. But the great thing is you can use multiple devices these days. It isn't just about using stuck on a desktop PC. You can use your Mac, you can use an iPhone to have a video conference, or a tablet, and you can be sitting anywhere like we're all doing now. So it's great that the cloud has kind of enabled that. And it is one common component of remotely working these days. So, what are the tools of the trade? As I said, multiple devices, multiple operating systems as well. So a lot of the cloud systems now will work on Windows, they work on Mac, they work on iOS, and they work on Android. So it's great. And particularly when it comes to Office applications like Office 365, they work across platform now as well. You don't need to have a Windows computer. So in a sense, it makes it a lot more accessible. Kind of the real basics for working remotely are, or used to be, I suppose, email and a phone, which people still do. And it works very effectively because a lot of people will just communicate on email and they'll pick up a phone and give someone a call. But these days, a lot of business data is getting moved around. It needs to be accessible. So what we see, or a lot of clients have used in the past, is remote desktops. So when they go home, they've used a remote desktop to access their computer in the office. It has been an effective way of working, but these days it's not necessarily that secure. So what a lot of customers are doing is moving their data into the cloud so it becomes more secure, more accessible. And then on from that, there's a lot of communication apps around now. So, instant messaging, there's Yammer, there's WhatsApp. These also do video conferencing. You can share data with them as well. Yeah. But again, this is one of the concerns for a business, is their third-party applications. So when it comes to a compliance point of view, you have to consider, well, is it safe that my business data is going across those networks? They are prone to hack attacks, and particularly WhatsApp has had one in the past. So you have to sort of bear that in mind, and it's something, we can help you with that and decide, well, what is the best solution depending on how secure your data needs to be. Yeah. And then when it comes back to the phones, also these days, you can have something called a cloud PABX, which is it's like a telephone system, but it's cloud-based. So normally in an office environment, you'll have lots of desk phones, and they're linked up via a cable down to a box in the comms room, which does all the communications and it handles all the phone lines. But these days, we see a lot of transition to cloud systems. So essentially what that means is you can still have a desk phone, but it's connected directly to the network, and the actual telephone system is in the cloud. So you could actually take that desk phone home with you, plug it in, and it'll work just like it's in the office. You'll have your same phone number, and it'll be like you're working anywhere. And also a lot of them now have applications that run on your mobile as well, so you can actually have your extension on your mobile, so it kind of sits as another layer. So if someone calls you in the office and you're halfway down the road, you can pick up that call. So it's great. And then video conferencing tools like we're all using at the moment, Zoom, which is a fantastic tool, Teams as well, there's WebEx, WhatsApp and FaceTime. So there's all these different platforms. And again, it kind of comes back to, well, requirements of your business and the security of your data. I think certainly bigger companies will want to look at something that's integrated. So Teams is a good example of that it's actually part of a customer's tenant. So Office 365 and Teams work alongside each other. So in terms of collaborating on, say, your Word documents, you can pull them into Teams, you can create little breakout groups or little project groups, and you can share that data, and that data sits within the company environment. It isn't taken out of the environment onto another platform, so therefore you still have control of the data, which is a really important thing. So just moving on, what does kind of collaboration look like in the cloud? OneDrive, which probably a lot of you heard of, it's something we get a lot of calls about, and there's really good ways of sharing data. And I think a lot of times we find that people are still using email to share documents, and we sort of say to them, well, just beware of the fact that when you attach a document to an email and you send it out, that you'll then lose control of it effectively. If you're doing it internally, fine, but if you're not, if you're sending it to an external client, then that's where, if it is confidential, you've got to be wary of the fact that you've lost control of it. So what we try and get people to do now is share data and do it from their cloud storage, whether it's OneDrive or SharePoint. But when it comes to that cloud storage, you can have that on your device, whether it's a Mac or Windows or iPhone as well. You can access your OneDrive using the OneDrive app. So you can have your data everywhere, and it's all synchronized as well. So if you work on it on your desktop, if you then go to your phone, you've got the latest copy there. So it all keeps it in real time. So, when you are sharing data, you have got control over it. So the company might set up rules, or you can set up rules that who accesses that data and how do they access it. Can they read it, or can they edit it as well? So you can control that with something like SharePoint, or Google Documents does it as well, which is another great tool. And then even things like compliance, and we get a lot of this for accountants. So after a certain period of time, they have to archive a lot of their data. So when you actually put that into the cloud, you can set compliance rules on it. So you have a cutoff time. And then what you do when it reaches that cutoff time, so you either permanently delete it, or you archive it, or whatever you want to do with it, really. So there's a lot of power to it. And then when you're collaborating in the cloud, this screenshot here is Microsoft Teams. So you can see there's little meeting groups you can have. You can make calls with it. So you can actually make external calls if you have a Microsoft calling plan. So a bit like you would an external call through a normal phone system. And then, one great thing is that you can create little project groups, so you can start to share, and it really helps in terms of collaboration, I think. And I think rather than sort of pinging stuff backwards and forwards on email, people can feel more included and not so isolated if you're working together, and you get that kind of presence as well. So, and also within those groups, you can jump into a video call and just include everyone at one point.
And can I just say on that, sorry Paul, just to say on the team side of things as well, is that we looked at this earlier in the week, didn't we? And it's not just for sort of meeting collaborations, is it, in-house or externally, but you can also use it for live events like we are now.
Yeah, and I will say, we did have some trouble with that, didn't we? But again, it's a new thing that, like all Amazon and Google, they're constantly evolving. And it's one thing, we're trying to keep up with all the time. Every day they're bringing it, and this is one of the beauty of being in the cloud and using cloud-based products, is that they're evolving all the time. And I think certainly recently we've seen a lot of new things accelerated, and new features come into Teams and SharePoint and OneDrive a lot quicker than they would normally. So it's great to kind of see that and be able to kind of talk with clients and say, oh, did you know about this new feature? I think it will really help you out. So
can I just interject as well for a moment? We use Teams a lot, and we've just had enabled team meetings, and it's really good. It's like WebEx, but so much better, so much clearer.
Oh, that's good.
And it links directly into your Outlook calendar. So if you enable meetings, I don't know how it happened because we're a big company and it just appeared. A button for calendars appeared. And with that, it meant we could set up meetings, much like we do WebEx, but they're Teams meetings. And you've got none of your access codes, none of your user ID, no dialing in. It's directly off a headset. It's so good.
And you're from a big company, aren't you, Diane?
Yeah.
BASF. So
Yeah.
how a big corporate firm, lots of different sites, I imagine.
Yes.
So you're able to connect through through all the different sites.
Yeah, we were really struggling with WebEx. I think Cisco's been having some quite bad bandwidth problems. And this was an IT solution, was to go with Teams meetings. And it has just been revolutionary.
Right, great.
So, yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, Diane. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, so I'll just go on to a few little tips because I think these are quite useful. I mean, you know, probably the first one, and it's something I've kind of avoided a lot. I didn't like it, was embracing video calling. I didn't like having a video on, and I always sort of, there's a great clip on YouTube. There's a picture of it there with Professor Robert Kelly when he was getting interviewed by the BBC, and his kind of children sort of come in from the back and then causing carnage in the background. But, you know, we've all been kind of forced into this situation right now, and it's, you know, it's a case of adapting to it. I mean, you know, I'm sitting on my balcony and it's freezing cold, but I'm just trying to get some peace and quiet, and it, you know, we all kind of work around it. So, but I think it really does help, and particularly when I'm talking to the rest of the team, is that we can all feel included, and we don't feel isolated as well. And it's good to see people on a daily basis, especially at the minute when we're having to isolate. So
absolutely.
You know, the next point really was about collaboration tools, and I think like Dan said, Teams, you know, really helps with that, to include people so that, you know, you can kind of get people's opinion, because I do think email gets a little bit cold. You know, you can kind of think about your reply too much, whereas, you know, when you're using the collaboration tool like this, you know, it's more instant, and you can kind of, you know,
well, things can get misconstrued as well, can't they, on email? And I think, you know, sometimes, like you say, cold, but you can read something differently to what another person would read it as on an email. Whereas, you know, when you're talking through video or live chat, it's very much kind of an instant thing, like you said, and there can be no kind of mistakes there then if you're just talking to each other like you would in a normal conversation face to face.
Yeah, and one of the good things as well, I think, to do, and it's something, you know, we're trying to do at the minute, because I think now that we're all isolated a bit, is to try and sort of sit down and set up tasks and timelines and goals as well. So what can we work on at the minute? And you know, there's a lot of kind of integrations into like Teams and Zoom where you can actually say, like, link in a project plan. So we're starting to pull in project plans, and we have them in our kind of team huddles. So we'll create particular areas for certain projects, and then we'll kind of, you know, it just crystallizes it a lot more, and it really helps to kind of keep track of what's going on, because otherwise it's difficult when you just got a laptop at home and trying to, you know, keep an eye on what's going on, really. Yeah, so the other thing really, I guess, trying to run through these a bit quicker, is sort of internet connection. That's really, you know, we struggle with it a little bit sometimes here, but I often find that if my broadband's getting battered, I'll go outside and I'll hotspot off my phone, and that can work very well. And particularly, I mean, this doesn't apply at the moment, but if you are, you know, you're working on, you know, need to kind of go out to a cafe in the future, try not to use a hotspot there, use your own, because if you are, you know, you've got business data and it's confidential, then try not to do it over a hotspot, because it may be that they don't have client isolation, so someone could potentially see what's happening on your device and look at that data. And then a little thing in terms of bandwidth, turn off a lot of other applications you might have running. So if you've got your web browsers open and your email, I mean, it's good to turn off email when you're in a video call anyway, because I've seen it before where everyone's getting email notifications and you're hearing things going every 5 seconds. So turn it all off, and then you won't get any messages popping up on your screen as well. And then also, as I mentioned before, sharing business data using the cloud storage and not on email. And then just quickly on security, I mean, obviously, when we're at home, we're using either a laptop, we might be using a desktop, a lot of portable devices. It's really important to make sure your password is secure and you're using a complex password. I know it's really easy to use something that is memorable, but when you're in the cloud, your identity is your security. So if someone got around that and they got access to your username and they could easily crack your password, then they have access to all your data. So it's really, really important. Make sure you've got secure password and that you're using MFA, which is multi-factor authentication. It's something a lot of things like Office 365 has it, Google has it now. So when you log into something, you have a kind of second layer, so it will either send you an SMS message, or you can have an app on your phone that will give you a code, or you press a button and it will approve that login. So it's another really good layer of protection. And then also make sure, if you can, that you're using something like BitLocker, which is available on Windows computers, and there's equivalent on Mac, so that you're encrypting the data on your computer. Because if that device gets stolen, someone can get around the password and they can access all your data. So that's really, really important to do as well.
Just on the comments on that, Paul, just to read out, Steve from our photographer, Steve, has said that he uses registration numbers from cars that he's owned in the past for passwords. It's quite a good tip. I know that people often in this sort of health and well-being world tend to, for passwords, use positive affirmations. Because obviously we on a daily basis use passwords for different things all over the place, and it's quite nice to use a positive affirmation as a password, because then you're actually typing it in and reading it back to yourself. So it could be almost like a message that you're saying to yourself, like "you're amazing" could be your password, "you're amazing," and then you're typing it in and it's like, it's great, but it's a positive thing. So all of these things are just like little tips, but there's only a small thing, but actually it can have quite a big effect, can't it?
Yeah, and there are password managers out there as well, free utilities that, if you can put all your passwords into it and it keeps them all encrypted. So if you do forget them,
right,
you can go in there and pull the passwords out. And then
Mike says that he uses a program called Dashlane for passwords.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that?
MacPass as well, that's a good one if you're on a Mac. KeyPass and another one on Windows. So there's quite a few around which are really good. So
great,
good to use. So just finally, really, don't ignore or delay any updates on your computer as well, because particularly at the moment, I think as the transition to home working has come very quickly, there are a lot of people with spare time on their hands doing things they shouldn't be doing on the cyber world and in the dark web. So they will be out there trying to hack systems, trying to hack business systems. So Microsoft and Apple will be releasing updates all the time to your security and also the Windows updates. So try not to delay them or delay a restart if it needs a restart. And then finally, keep an eye out for phishing emails, because sometimes they are quite difficult to spot. I had one, I think yesterday, which was an SMS, which was that one, and I nearly clicked on it.
Was this a text message?
The UK government said, "Oh, you're
I've seen this. I think Lisa put a shout out actually on her Facebook, because I think she received this as well this week, and that's actually a scam then, is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's the best thing to do is look up the actual URL it takes you to, because if it's not an official government site, it says uk.covidrelief.com, so it's something someone's made up, and it will take you to a site that looks like the government site. But it isn't. So always check the URLs. I mean, again, a lot of the security tools out there, McAfee, Norton, they do check safe links. Office 365 does it if you have the right package as well. So it will scan the link for you and tell you whether or not it's safe. And if it's not sure, it'll give you a tip anyway to say, have a look at it and just make sure.
Yeah. And I think about it's reading it properly as well, because we just skim things, don't we? But Steve's made a valid point on that previous slide of the government NHS text, that actually there's a spelling mistake, and quite an obvious spelling mistake on there that I wouldn't have noticed if Steve didn't notice. So it's things like that, isn't it? But it's easily done. It's easily, now the scammers are getting so good, aren't they, that it's quite difficult to differentiate them between the real thing.
Yeah. So, finally, the other topic, if we've got time, is just about migrating to the cloud. I won't go into too much detail, really. If any of you guys, either you're in the cloud or you're kind of halfway there, or you're kind of thinking about it but not really sure, then by all means give me a shout and we can talk about your requirements, because everyone's different and everyone has different requirements. And
so are you available
a bit daunting.
Sorry, because there's a bit of a time delay on this. I'll put my hand up before I speak next time, Paul. Sorry. I was just going to say, so are you around if people that want a bit more information on sort of certain things that are specific to them after today? Are you around on a Zoom call?
Absolutely, because if you're kind of looking at perhaps what package to use and how it will integrate with what you do on a day-to-day basis. One of the slides I've got here, which we show to customers, is this one. And there's so many different Microsoft products out there now. Everyone thinks, oh, it's just Word, Excel, PowerPoint, but, it does so much more. But, there's so many different packages, and it's, when you go to the website, even we get a bit confused sometimes because they change it all the time. So you kind of look at the packages, go, well, which one do I need? You don't necessarily know. So, we can certainly help with that. If you're not sure whether to move your email, or you want to keep your email where it is, you want to move your data, you might want to use SharePoint. There's all these different applications. And so, I'll just kind of finish by saying, give us a call if you need any help. And
that's great. Thanks ever so much, Paul. Thank you.